In this class, we've been talking about management, and we introduced the idea of the four functions of management: the planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. And in this class, we're focusing on the planning aspects of management. Now let's take a look at the different levels of planning that take place. At the highest level of planning, we have strategic planning. This is typically done by executives. This is executives looking out at the environment and determining where their business needs to go in the next several years. Recent examples of this would be Disney. Disney had theme parks and movies, but they realized entertainment was rapidly moving to streaming. They decided that they had to get into streaming and have gone in the direction now of Disney Plus. A lot of the entertainment people are going in the direction of streaming. Strategic planning might be looking at what's going on with my products, what's happening with clothing. Clothing is going to be intelligent, perhaps someday. They've already developed clothing that can have solar cells and generate electricity. So how's that going to change electricity? How are trends changing? How's driverless cars going to affect the gas industry? Things like that. All of those things are a result and products of strategic planning. Even small businesses have to do strategic planning. They may not think of it that way, but a restaurant will take a look and say, what's happening in food? What's going on? What are the trends going on with food, maybe toward organic or other? What are the trends in terms of technology that affect a restaurant? Do we have tablets at every table? Those sorts of things. Then we have tactical planning. This is done typically by middle management. They're looking probably a quarter to a year plus time frame. What they do is allocate money and people to get the job done. So, for example, Apple wanted to get into streaming as well. Well, they're going to have servers. Where do I get the money? Where do I get the people to create the servers? Disney's getting into streaming. Where do I get the money? Where do I get the people? Netflix moved from originally DVDs to streaming. Well, they had to get the money and shift the money from building distribution centers for DVDs to building server farms. Tactical planning is an important aspect in terms of making sure that you achieve your strategic objectives. Operational planning is the running of the day-to-day business. Managers here are typically first-level managers, and they're looking a week to maybe a quarter time frame. They run the day-to-day business. Who's going to work this week? Who's on vacation this week? Do I have enough inventory? Am I making enough product? All of these things are in the planning of that is done by first-level management, and we call operational planning. We also have to plan for things that might happen that we hope don't happen. We called one of them contingency planning. Contingency planning is the scenario that if something happens, then here's what I am going to do. Good examples are, if there's a power failure, what do we do? You might notice that when there's a power failure, your phone still works. Why is that? Well, it's because the phone company has a contingency plan and they have power backup generators to handle those things. What happens if we have a snowstorm? Well, the school has a contingency plan. If there's a snowstorm, then the call goes out and the texts go out notifying people that the school will be either delayed opening or canceled. Sometimes you can't plan for something. That's crisis management. Can anybody say coronavirus? Pandemics. I don't think anybody in the United States or probably anywhere but in the world, really any business was planning on this and had a contingency plan for a pandemic. People react. This is a good thing to watch how businesses react and what good businesses do and what bad businesses do in a crisis. Oh, when we look at leading, turn to the topic of leading, there are several styles. We can first contrast, though, leading with managing. Managing is getting the job done. Leading is more motivational oriented. Here's where we're headed. Let's go. Managing is getting that done. There's different styles of leading. The autocratic style is sort of my way or the highway. I'm the boss. Here's how you do it. Do it. We've all probably worked for somebody like that. And we know whether we like it or not, and we know that it's not always the best, right? Manager doesn't always have the best information and make the best decisions. Democratic is kind of the other end of the spectrum. I'll let everybody vote. Everybody gets a say in this. Well, that's good. You get more ideas, get more participation. You might get more buy-in. But it's not always the right one either. Free reign is let the people decide. As a manager, you just let the people go. They get to pick what they want to do. Well, they might be motivated, but you might not get what you wanted, and you might not get it how you wanted it. The management style you choose in terms of which one is best really depends upon the situation. We might think democratic is good because we like participation and we all think democracies are good. But let's suppose that we're in Afghanistan and somebody is shooting at us from the hill. Which management style do you think we should use? Hopefully you thought autocratic. Autocratic style is good when the manager does have the information required to make a decision and time is important. If that's the case, make the decision and move. But maybe time isn't important, and maybe other people might have good decisions. You may then want to switch to a more democratic management approach. Now, there's two other types of styles that are a little bit different than those three. Transactional is one that says the power of the individual is based upon their rank. What that means is their title or their position in the business gives them the power. So the vice president of finance or the CFO, if they say you get the money, you get the money. If they say you don't get the money, you don't get the money. The power is based upon their ability to either control the resources or ultimately to potentially fire you. A transformational power is very different. It's based upon the character of the individual. Some people are just born leaders. You want to follow them. You would do things for them. That kind of power is called transformational. Finally, when we look at the planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, we can look at controlling. And we control resources. No, this is not controlling people. It's not saying, here's what your task is. That would be planning. It's not controlling people in the sense of, this is your new assignment. It's controlling resources. It could be controlling people in terms of how many people. If I, as a manager, say you can have 10 people to do this job, that would be controlling resources, but not controlling the people themselves. Controlling resources, we think about money. What's the budget that you get? Controlling resources can be things like information. These days, controlling data is a huge resource and a very valuable resource for people. One of the things we want to do when we control is to do benchmarking. That's an important term for you to know. Benchmarking is when you compare your business with the competition or maybe with the industry as a whole. Are we using our resources correctly and efficiently? Are we being efficient? What are our cost of goods compared to somebody else? What's our contribution margin relative to somebody else? What's our return on sales relative to somebody else? What do we pay people relative to other people? That's going to come up again later in human resources. So benchmarking is a very important concept. All right. So we've talked about the planning, organizing, leading, controlling. We'll get to those other topics in other classes.